The Checkpoints is presented by pharmaceutical company GM Pharma.
Natia Turnava, acting president of the National Bank of Georgia (NBG), met with members of the Pension Agency's Investment Council. The discussion, according to the NBG press office, reviewed the council's recent moves as well as continuing revisions in the legislation on cumulative pension and investment plans. It was an ordinary working meeting where we extensively talked about current topics, how to make the supervision of the agency's investment activities more effective, Turnava stated. The Ministry of Finance reports that the total amount of tax break made up 3.8 billion lari in 2022, 90% of which accounted to VAT. Value-added tax in Georgia totals to 18%. The following major sectors are exempt from VAT: healthcare, pharmacy, education, gambling, several operations with motor cars and agriculture. As a result of tax breaks in those sectors, in 2022, the budget did not receive tax revenues of 3.4 billion lari. Integrating Ukraine into the European Union could mean some 186 billion euro in EU funds flowing to the country over 7 years, according to an internal note of the Council of the EU seen by Politico. Enlarging the EU further to include 6 Balkan countries, as well as Georgia and Moldova, would impose a further burden of around 74 billion euros on the EU budget, the document added. The mayor of Tbilisi, Kakha Kaladze, has put forth a proposal to impose potential restrictions on specific vehicle categories within the capital to mitigate traffic congestion. Kaladze stated vehicles of M3, N2 and N3 categories may face limitations on movement within the administrative boundaries of Tbilisi municipality during specific hours from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. and from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. He added that the proposal aims to manage traffic more effectively by limiting the movement of larger vehicles during peak hours. Kaladze further explains certain exceptions will be made, particularly for essential public needs. Ongoing discussions with the construction sector are addressing their concerns, and efforts are underway to find a solution. This is The Checkpoints. I'm Elena Kvanchilashvili, author and the host of the show, and the Checkpoints team is ready to sum up the business and economics week for you. Economic growth for the emerging market and developing economies, EMDEs, of the Europe and Central Asia region has been revised up to 2.4% for 2023, says the World Bank's economic update for the region released today. The peaking in growth reflects improved forecast for war-hit Ukraine and for Central Asia, as well as consumer resiliency in Turkey and better than expected growth in Russia because of a surge in government spending on the military and social transfers. Excluding Russia and Ukraine, regional output is expected to grow by 3% in 2023. Nevertheless, growth remains weak relative to the long-term pre-pandemic averages. Overall, growth in half of the Europe and Central Asia countries is expected to be slower, little changed in 2023 than in 2022. During 2024-25, growth is expected at 2.6% a year amid a weak expansion in the European Union. The region's largest trading partner, high inflation, tighter financial conditions, and spillovers from Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Overlapping shocks from Russia's invasion of Ukraine, a cost of living crisis, and climate risks are creating formidable challenges in Europe and Central Asia, said Antonella Bassani, World Bank Vice President for the Europe and Central Asia region. A new approach will be necessary for countries to revive productivity growth, achieve better economic and social outcomes, improve resilience, and accelerate efforts to decarbonize the economy. Downside risks cloud the outlook for the EMDs in Europe and Central Asia. High inflation may persist amid heightened volatility in global commodity markets and a surge in energy prices. Global financial markets may become more volatile and restricted restrictive due to tightening financing conditions. Global growth for 2020-2024 is weaker than during any five-year period since 1990 and may weaken further. Fiscal deficits are broadly unchanged this year despite earlier plans by governments to implement fiscal consolidation after large increases in spending over the last several years due to COVID and the cost of living crisis, said Ivo Izvursky, World Bank chief economist for Europe and Central Asia region. The rising cost of population aging, higher interest payments, the needed investment for climate mitigation and adaptation, and managing other overlapping crises will keep up the pressure on government budgets. Ukraine's economy is likely to grow by 3.5% this year after a contraction of 29.1% in 2022, the year when Russia invaded the country. Thanks to more stable electricity supply, increased government spending, ongoing donor support, a better harvest, and the rerouting of some exports through the country's western borders. The World Bank revised growth forecast for Georgia as well upward to 5.9% in 2023 as consumption and investment remained resilient. According to the institution, Armenia and Georgia were the fastest growing economies in Europe and Central Asia. As of the report, Georgia maintained robust growth momentum in the second quarter of 2023, with output increasing by 7.5% year over year, have been revised upward to 5.9% in 2023. Exports grew strongly in the South Caucasus as booming re-exports of cars sustained the double-digit growth of exports in Georgia, even as exports of metal shrank, reflecting lower global prices. Money transfer inflows have eased in recent months while remaining robust. The countries of the South Caucasus lead the ECA region in the speed of disinflation. A sharp reduction in the prices of food and energy imports, helped by a stronger currency, was the main driver of inflation dynamics in Georgia. The outlook is subject to various downside risks, including a slowdown in money and remittance flows from Russia, global growth slowdown, further restrictions on re-exports, and longer than expected tightening of financial conditions, the document reads. The Minister of Economy of Georgia, Levan Davitashvili, spoke about the development of the Middle Corridor during the Minister's Hour in the Parliament. According to him, a decision has already been made to form a joint company that will coordinate future cargo shipments from China to the corridor. According to the Minister, such a company exists. It is a joint agreement between the railways of Georgia, Kazakhstan, and Azerbaijan. It will serve container cargo shipments from China to Europe through the Middle Corridor. The main goal is to make the Middle Corridor more competitive and coordinated. You know that both competitive prices as well as high quality service are essential, and I think that within the framework of a joint company, we will better serve these cargoes, said Levan Davitashvili. The Minister of Transport of Kazakhstan stated at the forum held in Astana a few days ago that the capacity in the corridor may increase 5 times, and the tariff set by the joint company will not change for 5 years. Challenges and the potential of the Middle Corridor was one issue discussed with Johan Breckweld, CEO of European Business Association. So let us start with the new developments with Anaklia Port. What we heard yesterday from the Minister of the Economy and from the Prime Minister also, that Georgia is starting to build Anaklia Port.
First, thank you very much for the interview, Ellen. The Anaklia Port, actually, as the president of the European Business Association, I have my opinion, but I also actually, as in being in the logistics, I know very much that a port is needed. To have good infrastructure is very much needed in Georgia. So it is very urgent time that we finally get correct infrastructure, that we can reduce the costs. And the government has now announced that they will do it themselves. Fine, but let's not wait, let's do it. We know that Anaklia has, for foreign investors, they didn't have much candidates, and we know the reason of that. First of all is geopolitical, because the war in Ukraine, the situation in Karabakh now also started, so there's not much trust, but also I think also the court case made a bad image. I think it is very important now that we swiftly move on with building the port of Anaklia, but also make sure that we're following European standards and make sure that it's fully transparent now how the process is going to make this trust, get back the trust from the people, from the investors also.
Are these only about sticking to the European standards, or also choosing the right investors? For example, we know that Kazakh investors have interest, we know that Chinese investors have interest. Now we heard that some European businesses have interest. How to balance that?
Yeah, it would be it's maybe strange for me as the president of the European Business Association in Georgia to mention it, but I would not say, okay, we need European, we need the Chinese, we need American investor. We need an investor that follows standards, that will make sure that the infrastructure is correctly built, that there are no questions, that they are really in order, that the infrastructure is working. And even if the investor is Chinese and not European, that they follow European standards, which I mean in construction, in development, that this is followed. And again, I go back, transparency, that there is full transparency, what is offered by the different company, and that the best company won according to the standards and not according just the price, which is important.
Is it the right time to seek for the investor then, since you mentioned all these troubles around the Anaklia port project, geopolitical, but also internal problems with international arbitration courts and court cases?
Well, I would say the right time was 10 years ago. We're already too late, because we are losing, again, and I repeat, we are losing the middle corridor. We got horribly to tell again that because of the war, there was an opportunity to finally develop the Georgian logistics hub. And we are now already more than a year into the war. This middle corridor started to work, but it is not viable today. If the war will be over, immediately all the cargo will back through Russia. And I can even tell you worse, that I spoke with Turkish people, and Turkey is now avoiding already the middle corridor and making a new corridor via Iran. So this is, again, that these are lost opportunities. And for the middle corridor to work, there are three important things. The first important thing, which is the Anaklia, is the infrastructure. There need to be a good infrastructure at a decent price. The second one is the reduction of the bureaucracy. There should be, goes much faster. There is a lot of bureaucracy going on in paperwork, in transit, for transit cargo. And the third one is the government, which is already doing also, but can do even more, communicating with the other bottlenecks, the Caspian Sea, the road with Azerbaijan, Central Asia, China, and this communication to get the corridor really alive. For the moment, yes, there is a middle corridor, but again, as a logistics specialist, I can tell you that it is still not viable. There is not, for the future build, we need to urgently do. So going back to that question, I would say Anaklia, we need to build. Even the moment is now geopolitically very difficult, but we cannot wait anymore. We need to start with it urgently.
During the Ministers' Hour at Georgia's Parliament, Vice Prime Minister of Georgia, Minister of Economy and Sustainable Development, Levan Davitashvili, declared that the Namakhvani HPP project will be restored. We're working on Namakhvani project. There is interest from investors, so that Namakhvani project will be restored, he explained. The Minister of Economy also spoke about Khudoni HPP. According to him, the minister will implement this project with maximum responsibility and minimal impact on nature, which is in the Smeneti region. As the minister said, the studies will be completed soon, and the potential investors are already waiting for the results of the studies. According to Levan Davitashvili, these will be leading companies with a high international reputation, and the government will provide more information to the public in the near future. A major Swiss company, Stücki Ltd, carries out project studies. This will be a new project that will have less impact on the environment and will be able to generate more electricity, said Davitashvili. Speaking about transport, the minister noted that the Anaklia Deep Sea project is actively implemented. The railway reform is being undertaken in line with the EU legal acts, along with the establishment of the railway system of a European model. At that, we launched the reform of domestic passenger transportation, which includes the certification licensing of the bus stations and transporters, Levan Davitashvili said. Anaklia's role and the meaning of infrastructure in absorbing the potential of the Middle Corridor was one of the topics of the interview with the international energy expert Edward Cho. This whole buzz about the Middle Corridor, how realistic is it in the first place, and do you see Georgia's role there?
I don't know. I think sometimes, but I'm now talking about my own country, we have a lot of slogans, and a lot of times I don't know what they mean. Middle Corridor, Indo-Pacific strategy, pivot to Asia. None of these things are very meaningful until I see concrete initiative that has financial resources behind them. And for the Middle Corridor, let me give you an example. People criticize China's Belt and Road strategy. And there's a lot of room for criticism of China's Belt and Road strategy. But what I know is the Chinese government committed $1 trillion to the Belt and Road strategy. So you know it's real because it's substantive, it's got big money behind it, and they're actually doing things. So Middle Corridor, what's the budget for the Middle Corridor? In Washington terms, when we come up with these slogans, and it's all administrations do this, right? Let's say, to take a different administration, let's say Obama pivot to Asia. Because I live in Washington or outside Washington, I say, well, what's the budget for pivot to Asia? If you cannot tell me what the budget is, maybe you don't really have a program. It's just a slogan, it's just words. And so one difficulty I have with the Middle Corridor is what's behind it? What are the resources, real resources, including financial resources, but not only, that's behind this. Whether it is the EU talking about, EU signing a memorandum of understanding with some Central Asian country or with Azerbaijan, that doesn't mean, I don't know what that means. It's just a good intentions, yeah? So what is the budget for this? The other thing, I find it hard because of the geography and the distances involved is I don't see how you can have a Middle Corridor be economically feasible, viable, profitable even, without China involved. No, because China is the world's largest trader in goods. So, and obviously they could potentially benefit from the Middle Corridor, right? But if they're not involved, then it's like you're taking maybe half of the equation, maybe even more, out of the picture and say, we can do this without China. And I'm not sure that that's possible.
Mm-hmm. That leads me to the question on Anaklia port in Georgia, because we've heard how important that project is for Georgia, and it gains even more importance in these circumstances. Who will be interested in investing in this port, Mr. Cho, at these circumstances? We see some Kazakh investors that are interested, Chinese investors that are also interested. What should be approach towards these investments? Because we remember U.S. Secretary General saying that, if I were Georgia, I would avoid Russian and Chinese investments in this.
I think, particularly as it relates to China, that was a mistake. I remember early days when the Naklea Port idea was first discussed, that I know, because again, I'm in Washington, that US officials discouraged Georgian company and Georgian government to allow the Chinese in. I think that was a mistake at the time. I said that at the time, but I understand Georgians getting pressure from these big guys in Washington saying, don't do it. But I don't know how it's feasible without it. Infrastructure, large infrastructure projects, require some commitment on the part of big users of that infrastructure. And by commitment, I don't mean just a promise. I mean a financial commitment that they're going to use the port to transit X amount of goods over a long period of time. Otherwise, banks won't finance because you don't have a committed user of your service. How are they going to finance, right? And so you could see Kazakhstan would be a very good investor because they could benefit. You could see even Middle Eastern investors wanting to participate in something like a Naklea port project. But if you take the biggest possible customer out of the picture, how are you going to do it? It's going to be much more difficult, if not impossible, to do. If it was done in the proper way, by Western business standards, it's also a way of including China to participate in a project that also not only helps Georgia, but helps the West and so on. And so that we get used to being partners playing by proper rules of the game, which is the right thing to insist on, rather than saying, oh, just ban Chinese companies altogether. Well, I don't know, as someone who used to work on developing large infrastructure projects for oil and gas, I don't know how you do that. It would be like saying that we want to build Baku, Tbilisi, Ceyhan, but we can't allow Azerbaijan to be a part owner of the project. Well, how can you? All the oil is coming from Azerbaijan, right? So if they don't commit to using it, you're going to build it for who's going to pay the money to do it? So to me, China has to be part of the equation. Doesn't mean that China should dictate all the terms or anything like that. But I think it's a much more difficult project to do without China. And there, I guess I differ from the sometimes official American position.
Thank you so much. And my last question about the Black Sea Cable project, is it also a slogan, or do you see some future for that project
I probably don't know enough about it, but I think there's a possibility the Black Sea Cable project just makes sense as in terms of regional integration without necessarily, but a deep water port costing billions of dollars is I think, again, if I were a commercial developer,
we have to ask Washington questions there as well.
If I were a commercial developer, I would want to include the largest potential customer, not chase them away.
More from the economy this week in our short weekly overview.
Georgian Prime Minister Irakli Garibashvili, who is participating in the third summit of European political community in Spain's city of Granada, said the European countries people I met and spoke with, including on the panel, clearly support us and acknowledge that they should not make the same mistake they made last year. The Prime Minister believes Georgia is ahead of the countries that have been granted the EU candidate status. We share the view that may be a merit-based decision, but we also know it's political. Having Moldova, Ukraine, Bosnia-Herzegovina and not Georgia as EU candidates say everything, he said. As for bilateral meeting with European leaders, the Prime Minister said he informed them of the nation's accomplished progress and obtained assurance from all European leaders that they would back Georgia's application for EU candidate status. The third summit of EPC is attended by 47 leaders of European countries and executives of various EU institutions. In August 2023, construction cost index increased by 1% compared to the previous month, according to the preliminary data from the National Statistics Office of Georgia. According to the document, the change was mainly due to a 1.6% increase in the average monthly nominal wages of employees in the construction sector, which contributed 0.6 percentage points to the total index change. Compared to February 2022, the construction cost index increased by 10.9%. The latter was largely caused by the 28.1% increase in average monthly nominal wages of employees in the construction sector and by the 6.2% increase in the price of construction materials, which contributed 6.45 and 3.46 percentage points to the total index change, respectively. The ongoing impeachment procedure against the president of Georgia does not help to depolarize the situation in Georgia. On the contrary, it fuels polarization, said Pavel Herchinsky, EU ambassador to Georgia. According to Pavel Herchinsky, the court's decisions should be respected. As you all know, now the case is with Constitutional Court of Georgia. I don't want to comment. It's for Constitutional Court to pronounce itself. I understand that both the representatives of the president as well as the ruling party have provided their arguments. I'm waiting, as all of us are waiting, for the opinion of the court. That, of course, we have to respect. What I can say is to repeat what I have already said many times and what High Representative Vice President Joseph Borrell said when he was here in Tbilisi a few weeks ago. The ongoing impeachment procedures against the president of Georgia does not help to depolarize the situation in Georgia. On the contrary, it fuels polarization, as we have been all witnessing over the last couple of days, he said. On October 3, the Constitutional Court launched a substantive consideration of the lawsuit against the president over her alleged violation of Constitution through her departure on an official visit overseas without the government's permission. I would like to thank my representatives who withstood all kinds of psychological, moral pressure and insults in the face of absurd accusations and non-existent evidence. They decently defended the institute of the president, wrote Georgian President Salome Zurabishvili on a social network, responding to the proceedings in the Constitutional Court on the impeachment issue. The Constitutional Court initiated the substantive review of the constitutional lawsuit against the Georgian president today. Maya Kopalashvili, a former Constitutional Court judge, and Tamar Chugashvili, an ex-first deputy speaker of the parliament, represented the president in the impeachment procedures before the court. In August, compared to the same period of the previous year, the volume of funds transferred to Georgia decreased by 40%, totaling $287 million USD, the National Bank of Georgia reported. According to the central bank, the money transfers from Russia decreased by 46% annually in August. However, funds transferred from Kazakhstan increased significantly by 55%. Remittances from Kyrgyzstan and Azerbaijan decreased by 63.9% and 20.2%. from Turkey slightly decreased, while remittances from Ukraine increased compared to the previous year. The volume of remittances from the USA continued to grow at high rate, increasing by 37.6%. In August, the main source of remittances were EU countries, Russia and USA, with notable shares from Italy, Greece and Germany among EU nations. The government of Georgia will compensate 3,500 lari per hail damaged hectare of land. According to Irakli Garibashvili, Prime Minister of Georgia, it will assist them in using funds for a particular purpose to recover and regenerate the hail-affected vines. I wish to once again explain the decision taken several days ago to our society. You may well be aware that grape harvest collection is very successful in Kakheti at present. We are providing maximum assistance to our people. Sadly, many vineyard owners have been affected by the hail and harvests have been lost. We, of course, made their damaged grapes admitted as promised, and this process has been launched. Actual collections include the hail-affected and damaged grapes in the value of 2 million lari. However, as the farmers lost their potential income, we decided to do the same as 2 years ago. We wish to allocate 3,500 lari per hectare to the loss-making vineyard owners as a sign of support. It will assist them in using funds for particular purpose to recover and regenerate the hail-affected vines, said Irakli Garibashvili, Prime Minister of Georgia. As the head of the government said, assistance to farmers engaged in grain production will also be provided by the government of Georgia. The National Bank of Georgia reports that Georgia received 430 million USD in revenue from software development and computer services in H1 2023. This is 194% higher compared to the same period of the previous year. According to Geostat, economic growth was 44% in the field of information and communication in the first quarter, while the second quarter the growth amounted to 20%. Overall, the increase in the sector is expected to reach 30% later this year. As for the foreign income, it stood at 231 million USD in H1 2023, while in H2 2023, 198 USD. The sharp increase in the revenues of IT sector in Georgia is due to two factors. The entry of international companies into the country is the first, while the second factor is migration, because the increase in turnover of this sector directly coincides with 2022, when the thousands of Russians came in the country. As for the wages, if in 2021 the average salary in the field of information and communications was equal to 2,000 lari, by the end of 2022 it reached 3,800 lari, and in the second quarter of 2023 the average salary amounts to 3,900 lari.
Last week, DevFest was held in Tbilisi with support from the Bank of Georgia. DevFests are local tech conferences hosted by Google developer groups around the world. Each DevFest event is crafted by its local organizers to fit the needs and interests of its local developer community, whether it be through hands-on learning experiences, technical talks delivered in local languages by experts, or by simply meeting fellow local developers. DevFest attendees learn how to build together and innovate on Google's developer tools. BMG's Business Evening anchor Georgi Aronia talked to Laura Sincera, program manager at Google, about DevFest and Google's involvement in Georgian communities. Let's watch the interview.
Laura, hi. Thank you very much for your time. It's a pleasure to have you here, have a Google employee here at BMG headquarters.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Laura, you came to Georgia for the 10th DevFest. Let's talk about the event. How was the experience like?
It was an incredible pleasure to be here, and it was the 10th anniversary and the biggest DevFest so far, with over 2,000 attendees. Yeah, and I was really impressed by the quality of the content and the diversity of both the attendees and the event itself. So there was like workshops hands-on and keynotes and lightning speeds, and yeah, really a lot of things happening. So it was really incredible.
DevFest is one of the things that the Georgian Google community does. But before we jump into discussing the particulars, I want to ask you about how did the Google community originate in Georgia?
So it was a group of volunteers that got together and in 2011, 2012, and started this movement called Google Developer Groups. And they started organizing events like DevFest, but also locally, like regional meetups that happen regularly throughout the months and the weeks. And it's still alive and growing and thriving. So yeah, that was the initial start of the communities in Georgia.
A big part of Google community in general is Google Developer Expert title. Could you share some light? How many GDs are there in Georgia?
Yeah, at the moment there's one very active expert, but yeah, it's part of the wider ecosystem that we have in terms of communities at Google. So there are the experts, there are the Google developer groups that I just mentioned before, which are communities of local leaders that are interested in sharing their knowledge with the local community. We have the Google Developer Student Clubs, which are university students that get together and form groups and teach and learn from each other and with each other. And we have the Women Tech Makers, who are ambassadors for diversity in technology. And we also have Accelerator, which are programs for startups to help them scale and grow. And yeah, the community is thriving in Georgia, so we have one expert, but we have a lot of GDs, and Google Developer Student Clubs are also really growing their footprint, as are Women Tech Makers.
Could you explain how can one become a GED? What is the process like, and what are some potential benefits that these people get?
Yeah, so GD, Google Developer Experts, are leading developers, so top people in a specific technology, right? So there are three key elements that are required to become an expert. First is expertise in one area at least of a Google technology. Secondly is to be an established thought leader in this field, so have a track record of giving talks and running workshops and sharing the expertise. And thirdly, it's about really communication, so being able to not only have the expertise yourself, but also mentor others and explain complexity in simple terms that help others clarify. So those are the requirements, and then once those are met, you can apply through a form, and then there's a community interview, and then there's a product interview.
I understand the benefit for the community, but what sort of benefits do GDEs get themselves?
Yeah, so they get access to a community of experts and also get a platform and the support of Google in terms of attending events like the one which is had DevFest, so traveling to share their knowledge and their expertise. And also they get recognized as experts, right, and appear in the directory. So those are some of the benefits, but there are way more.
You just mentioned different types of communities that exist within the Google ecosystem. Let's talk about them in more detail. For instance, let's take Women Tech Makers program or any other that you prefer to talk about. Could you explain what sort of benefit does this bring to community per se in general, and then to contextualize it a bit in Georgia?
Sure. So I can focus maybe on Google Developer Student Clubs, which is my realm. So student clubs are university students that work together to start a club from scratch, right? Mm-hmm. So they are just university students, and then they get together and from the ground in this yearly program create an entire organization, and they create social impact initiatives, really. So in Georgia specifically, there's one initiative that was run a couple of years ago that was called Tech Camp, in which the students got together to help high school students to start coding and start acquiring the required tech skills to make an impact early on. And and it is really inspiring to see what a group of students can do. And really also one thing that we are aiming to do here is to help them bridge the gap between theory and practice, so the knowledge intellectually that they're acquiring, the skills at university, to actually create a bridge to industry and let them apply everything they know already in the real world.
How does a student club, regular club at university, become a Google supported club?
Mm-hmm. So it's a program that is a yearly program, and in order to become a lead, you apply also, and if you get selected, then you participate in this program, and you get the mentorship from Google and the resources and just the support and access to the community. So there's an interview process that you go through, and if you're selected, then you're part of the community.
Let's talk about Google ecosystem and Google communities in more general sense. Could you shed some light on how many communities are there in the world, for example, and do they grow year by year, and what are the statistics?
Indeed, yeah, they grow year by year, and it depends. So for example, Google Developer Groups, we have over 1,100 at the moment in 140 countries. So it's a really global program. It's the biggest actually of its nature in tech.
Wow.
Then, Google Developer Student Clubs is the newest program, but the fastest growing. So we have at the moment just onboarded 1,800 leads globally. Google Developer experts are around 1,000, also across the globe. And same with Women Tech Makers and Accelerators. So it's truly a big imprint of global communities.
Laura, thank you very much for your time, for your insight into whatever Google is doing in Georgia and in the world. We hope to see more people, more Georgians involved in Google projects in the future, and see you once again here at BMG.
Thank you so much for having me.
And now, what was new in business this week? Natia Taktakishvili will give us an updated picture.
Radisson Red Hotel, located on David Aghmashanabeli Avenue, was opened in the former post office building. The hotel has 111 rooms, including standards to suites. To renovate and preserve the building's regional appearance, over $28 million was invested. At this point, about 100 people are employed at Radisson Red Tbilisi. Along with the business sector, the official opening ceremony of Radisson Red Tbilisi Hotel was attended by Georgian Prime Minister Irakli Garibashvili and Tbilisi Mayor Kakakaladze. The head of the government thanked the investor for an important support and pointed out that $28 million has been invested. A new top-notch hotel of the Radisson Red brand is the first in our region. I would like to express enormous gratitude to the investor company. The project investment amounts to $28 million and it employs 100 people. I also want to emphasize with pride that we are all excited about the fact that this historical post office building has been renovated, and most importantly, yet another modern five-star hotel was enriched our capital and our country, Irakli Garibashvili said. Maga Ghlighushvili, commercial director of Lopotas Spa Resort, declares that there was a low activity in the direction of international tourism in Kakheti this year, despite the 90% occupancy of the hotel in July and August. The representative of the tourist facility explains that among the vacationers, mostly local guests prevailed, and attracting international vacationers remains a challenge, according to her. The number of vacationers from United Arab Emirates has decreased in Lopotas Spa Resort this year. The summer season went well, but the expectations were much higher. Markets have changed. We lost visitors from the United Arab Emirates. The figure was down by about 55%, which had a big impact as it's very difficult to replace such a large percentage with another market. For example, tourists from China don't arrive on scheduled direct flights. They visit Kakheti with tours, don't stay and return to Tbilisi. Therefore, in terms of international tourists, the situation in Kakheti was very difficult. As for September, the season is going well due to the activity of our loyal customers, says the commercial director of Lopotas Spa Resort. Women's clothing, shoes and accessories brand Matters declares that the Georgian brand plans to export its products abroad as well as to add men's line. According to Elena Kakhidze, co-founder of Matters, the company has also started working on shoes this year. Until now, we have offered our customers only clothes and small amount of accessories, but today women can choose a total look with us. In the future, the brand plans to work more actively in the direction of shoes and export its products. We also want to add a men's line, Kakhidze said. Speaking about raw materials, the founder notes that Georgian companies are facing great difficulties due to the scarcity of raw materials and suppliers. Matters, a Georgian brand of women's clothing, shoes and accessories, appeared on the market in 2018 with an investment of 3,000 lari. Matters employs 5 people. The brand also collaborates with 3 tailors and various companies. The average monthly production of the brand is 300 units. In the international market, its collection is presented in Poland and Israel. The company is successfully operating on Etsy.com platform. At this stage, Matters products can also be purchased online on the website www.matters.g as well as on Facebook and Instagram pages. The hotel complex Park Resort Zhaltubo, located in the center of Zhaltubo, has expanded. As the founder of the company, Badri Kakabadze, says in a conversation with BMG, 5 million lari has been invested in the expansion. According to him, Bank of Georgia and Enterprise Georgia also took a financial part in the expansion of the complex. As for the specific details, 13 new rooms were added to the existing hotel building. The Balneological Spa Center was renovated and a new restaurant space in Meruliaski Zebi was opened. Zhaltubo is developing step by step. Our group invested a total of 25 million lari in Zhaltubo. There was a demand for growth. Guest number increase made us decide that 30 rooms were not enough, so we added another 30 rooms, renovated this spa center, which is a kind of healing space, and also we opened a new restaurant, says Badri Kakabadze. The opening ceremony of Park Resort Zhaltubo was held on September 30. Representatives of the local government attended the event. Hotel Panorama Bakhmaro was opened in Bakhmaro last year. As the owner of the hotel, Georgi Kechakmadze, told BMWG, the hotel is preparing for the winter season. Bakhmaro is attractive in every season, however, the outstanding period is winter and summer. This year we had a lot of vacationers, Georgian guests as well as foreign tourists. We had to invest quite a lot in the construction of hotel. As of today, the financial resource that we have already spent for the arrangement of the place is more than 700,000 lari. This is our family business. We did it with our own funds, says Georgi Kechakmadze. The gin-producing company Netari was appeared on the Georgian market since this spring 2023 and offers customers dry gin. The founder and director of Netari, Otar Chachanidze, talked about the news and future plans of the brand in an interview with BMWG. The idea of making gin appeared in 2020. Then there was a 2-year period of studying production technology. The sale of the product started in spring 2023. We offer our customers a dry gin called Netari. The raw materials used in the production are of the highest quality, says the director of the company. The company produced 1,000 bottles of gin this year, which were distilled and bottled in Tbilisi. The raw materials used in production are imported from 6 countries: Indonesia, Turkey, Bulgaria, Albania, Hungary, and Spain. In addition, the director of the company spoke about the challenges in the market and noted that the main challenge is the lack of professional experience. The production of the mentioned product is a novelty for the Georgian market, and therefore the main difficulty is the lack of professional experience in this field. We are trying to raise people's awareness in this regard. At this stage, we are actively working with representatives of HoReCa sector, he said. Netari products are sold in the chain of Alcorum as well as in the online store veli.store.g. Hotel Hamu Mukhrani, located in the center of Mukhrani village, is already planning to expand. Hotel manager Anna Gabashvili told BMWG, our 18-room hotel offers unique design, which includes the synthesis of wood, clay, and other high-quality materials and provides a warm atmosphere. It should be noted that the hotel is located in the middle of Mukhrani village and creates a very quiet and cozy environment for guests to relax. We plan to expand in the future, which means increasing the room number to 15, she said. In addition, the manager said that the hotel is focused on high-income customers and the price of a room ranges from 200 lari to 300 lari depending on the season. Gabashvili also spoke about the customers' attitude and difficulties in the market, which are related to the shortage of personnel in the sector. The hotel also has a restaurant which serves not only vacationers but also external guests. Along with the expand of the hotel, the expansion of the restaurant is also planned. The hotel was opened in September 2023. Wood Teens products, which manufactures handmade wooden accessories, are exported abroad, as the founder of the brand, Tamtam Musiashvili, said during a visit to TV program Women's Narrative. Negotiations have already begun, and in 2024, Wood Teens products will appear in Italy, Germany, and USA. Various types of accessories are made under the Wood Teens brand: brooches, earrings, and bracelets. Up to 700 different designs and brooches are presented in our collection. The collections change and update over time. At this stage, we have several directions, Tamtam Musiashvili said. Wood Teens products are made of wood and organic glass, the average cost of which ranges from 10 lari to 15 lari. The brand is represented on the market for 5 years and employs 8 people.
Our main message in Grenada will be that Georgia deserves candidate status for the European Union. It is necessary for our European colleagues to take a further step and for the country to receive a deserved candidate status. The Prime Minister of Georgia, Irakli Garibashvili, stated in the Spanish city of Grenada, where the European Political Community, EPC, will hold its third summit. According to him, the main topics of discussion will also be the geopolitical situation and challenges in the region. I will participate in the roundtable format. Of course, the most important thing for us is that we have been recognized as a country with a European perspective, and now it is necessary for our European colleagues to take a further step and for the country to receive a deserved candidate status, said Garibashvili. The main topics of discussion will also be the geopolitical situation, the most difficult situation in the region, the war in Ukraine, and therefore challenges for us. Therefore, I think that our participation in this conference will be quite fruitful, Prime Minister added. According to him, he has very strong arguments to present to his European colleagues, which they have and will have to share, Garibashvili said. I'm confident that common sense, rationality, and prudence will prevail in the European Union. Georgia, according to Garibashvili, is ahead of Ukraine, Moldova, and Bosnia and Herzegovina, all of whom were granted candidate status last year. I believe Europe will not repeat the mistake they made last year when they oppressed and treated Georgia unfairly. Thus, they got things done not for our country, but for another country that is interested in demonstrating more divergences. Therefore, I think we explained everything to our European colleagues. They shared these arguments. My main argument is that the country has achieved very tangible results in all directions. We are ahead of Ukraine, Moldova, and Bosnia and Herzegovina, all of whom obtained candidate status last year, but we did not. We will not stand for injustice or an oppressive mindset. We had a really principled discussion about it with our European colleagues. I believe that common sense, rationality, prudence, and strategic thinking will triumph, Garibashvili said. October is a very important month for Georgia on its EU candidacy status path. We will keep you updated on BMG's every platform, including BM.G. Stay tuned. We will meet next Sunday.
The Checkpoints is presented by pharmaceutical company GM Pharma.